I'm the chairman, Peter Tallman. To my left is Councilor Will Puello from Ward 2. To my right is Councilor David Bartley, Ward 3. And this meeting is on the Community Access Channel. It's live streamed and also on Zoom.
Okay, I'll make a motion to take one off the table.
Motion to take item number 1 off the table for discussion. It's item 1 is from Mayor Joshua Garcia, letter reappointing Miss Miriam Panitch, 134 Madison Avenue, to serve as Commissioner of the Planning Board for the City of Holyoke. Ms. Panitch will serve a 5-year term, and said term will expire on June 30th, 2024. Is Ms. Panitch? Yes, she is. She's on the Zoom call. I'd also like to mention that Councilor McGivern is also here in committee, and if anybody else is here, I will let you know. Jenny Rivera is also here on Zoom, one of our at-large counselors.
Ward 1.
Ward 1, that's right, Ward 1. Ann Israel Rivera is also here, is one of our at-large city councilors. Miss Panitch, welcome. You're on mute.
Anyway, thank you, and thank you for having me.
Yes, this is actually a reappointment. I believe this was in committee last year. It was not taken up, so if you want to just give a brief discussion on your work on the planning board, and then we'll have open it up for some questions for you.
I'm sure. I was originally appointed to the planning board back when Elaine Pluta was mayor, and it has been a really interesting learning experience over the years. And I think most of you are familiar with what the planning board does, which is both more and less than you might think. We do site plan reviews, we do some advice on the zoning ordinance, and most of it is extremely technical and a huge learning curve. We do everything from, what should the buffer zones be for marijuana facilities, which is obviously a hot topic at the moment, to things like when there's a housing project going up, we look at the site plan, and if there's something going on, like there's a wayfinding sign in the middle of it that is just in the wrong position, and it was a mistake, but it is blocking the traffic views, we will talk to the people who are building the site and say, hey, could you move that thing 6 inches because it is blocking a view and it's going to be a traffic hazard. So it's, really jack of all trades to some extent. And it's, unless you want me to talk about current controversies, I'm not sure what else I can really tell you.
I appreciate that, Ms. Panitch. Any questions from any of our members?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Will?
Ms. Panitch, could you talk about the last project you worked on, please, just as an essay? I'm a new member, so I'm trying to learn as much as I can. Thank you.
Oh, sure. Right now, and this is something that you're going to be taking up, and we've been working on it off and on since last year, the redrafting of the cannabis siting ordinance. And this has been a long project from the very beginning when it was first legalized. It came to Holyoke, and zoning works under state law. It's Chapter 40A, which is a relatively short statute to read, but it's pretty dense and complicated. And the procedure it sets out for an ordinance change, which we had to make in order to allow cannabis facilities in Holyoke at all, is, the city council decides to move forward with enacting some sort of ordinance. The order goes in, the order is sent to the ordinance committee, which in turn refers it to the planning board, which, under state law, then studies the matter, holds hearings, and will make a recommendation to the ordinance committee. Technically, it's actually to the city council, but in Holyoke, the ordinance committee takes it up. And we send that to you, or we hold joint hearings with you. And in the end, we write up a recommendation. Here's what we think you ought to do about this, and here's why. Now, the ordinance committee and the city council are completely free to ignore us. You can take some advice, you can ask us more questions, you can decide that we're off in the wrong direction entirely. But we have tried to be useful and to partner with the city council from the very beginning, when it was just medical marijuana, and we were trying to work out, all right, do we want to have this available in one part of the city? Do we want to treat it just like prescription medications and have facilities that dispense medical marijuana everywhere? How do we write the rules so that they work? And we have continued, as the city council has continued, to try to revise those rules as the industry in Holyoke has grown and become more complicated. And every so often we disagree. I think the planning board unanimously is not terribly concerned about buffer zones except for schools, where the city council is very concerned about making sure these facilities aren't too close to uses where we don't want them. But we have taken this up. We have been particularly involved with trying to figure out how to best permit these facilities, because they do get permitted via a special permit from the city council. And you've been looking at those recently. And that language, I think we are very sensitive to the fact that the city council should be approving marijuana uses. It is not a job for the planning board to decide where they go. And it certainly is not a job for the planning board to decide conditions like what you want by way of security, what percentage of Holyoke police officers you're going to ask them to hire. That is all very definitely, that's city council business. And at the same time, the technicalities, things like, is there an internal wayfaring sign or wayfinding sign in the wrong place? Is there a problem with the way the sally port for the proposed facility is sited? Is it going to get in the way of traffic? Is there enough energy provided to the facility? Are they using heat pumps? Do they have a propane field? Is there any special chemical handling requirement we need to know about? Where are the fences? All of that is stuff that somebody needs to look at. And as of now, again, the city council has been handling all of that. Planning staff, as opposed to the planning board, sends around letters to various city departments and tries to collate the information you all need to permit on that level too. And we internally have been discussing whether there is any way to take some of that work off your plates, because in fact, let's be realistic. The wayfinding sign is annoying, it is technical, it is incredibly boring. And review on this level is really time consuming. And planning staff is very good at it. They've been doing it for decades, although not always in this context. So we have been trying to work out whether there's any way, because our special permits, where they're purely planning board permits, are very detailed, and we build in a lot of enforcement. Prior to the issuance of the building permit, if there are conditions that need to be met, the applicant will come back and tell us or give us proof that these conditions have been met. Or prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, there will be some final review about the signage, and we'll make sure that conforms and it's not obstructing anything. And those mechanisms have been very useful in the site plan review area. And although I know the city council could do exactly the same thing, you're as competent as we are, your special permits have not been as detailed on that level as ours. And planning staff has been concerned about building in some kind of enforcement on that level. So that's what we're working on now. What kind of draft we can suggest to you all that will be, not intrusive of your power and authority and actually useful to you. And at the same time, we'll pick up the kinds of things that we're concerned get left out and become problems after a facility is already up and running. So is that helpful?
Thank you very much, Ms. Panitch. It is. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Puello. Any other councilors have any questions at all? Anybody on Zoom have any questions for Ms. Panitch? I'd like to
I'll make a motion just to refer it back to city council.
make a motion to refer this appointment back to the city council for a full vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Panitch.
Thank you, Councillor Tallman, and
I'll make-
other councillors.
Make a motion to take number 2 off the table, please.
Item number 2 off the table for discussion. It's, dear council members, subject to your approval, I hereby appoint the following individual to serve as a member of the Board of Appeals for the City of Holyoke, Mr. Morris M. Partee. Mr. Partee will serve a 2-year term, and said term will expire July 1st, 2023. Respectfully submitted, Joshua Garcia, Mayor. Mr. Partee, come on in. Get the button on, okay.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Mr. Partee, and I do recognize the name, and I know you were a member of the Board of Appeals previously, and appointed again by Mayor Morse, and since he had left, Joshua Garcia put your name forward for the appointment to the Board of Appeals. So if you want to discuss a little bit about your background and your work already in the Board of Appeals, and then we'll have a couple questions for you.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks for having me. And I should clarify that previously I was an alternate member of the ZBA.
Okay.
There was an issue that came before the ZBA a couple months ago, and because the other member was not present, or a vacancy had filled, the chairman of the board asked me to be an acting full member at that time. So to me, the terrific thing about the ZBA is it only meets as needed, which has only been about, I think, 3 times in the last 4 years. I love that rate. The last issue was very interesting, and that's where, over the years I have a good relationship with Aaron Vega. I've gotten to know Jeff Burkott a little bit. So I now have I feel like I'm getting a better and better understanding that my role on the ZBA is to interpret and understand what City Council has laid out, what determinations, and then apply it to any specific situation that comes up. So the last issue was about putting a second house on an existing parcel, and whether a variance could be granted. And that's where it was, of course, we want to hear a petitioner. I have a lot of sympathy for anyone who comes before the ZBA of, they've got some issue that they want to try and get an exception for. But that's where, you have to look at the city's wishes as a whole, and what the zoning issues are, what the requirements are, and there's actually, and what I've also learned in my very limited experience on the ZBA is that there's very detailed rules set out by the state, essentially guidelines that the ZBA should be following.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Any questions from any other councilors in the room? Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Councilor Tallman. Morris, thank you for coming forward and being willing to serve. I think I'm just a little curious because you've seen it and you've done some action, but and you're right. The zoning board of appeals has very strict rules to follow. It's one, you have to look for a hardship to give a variance. And 2, it deals a lot in numbers, a lot in setbacks, a lot in, maybe this 2 yards doesn't make a difference on this particular plot. I'm kind of curious though about someone asking to put a second parcel, a second building on a lot. How did that work out?
Sure. Well, so it was 3 lots, like way back when, that had been purchased as one, and a house was built on 1/3 of the original 3, and then there was a pool that was taken away. And so what the homeowner wanted to do was split the property in half, because he had this sort of a relatively large back half of his property, but it didn't meet the requirements. So he was seeking a variance to keep his one house, obviously, and essentially split off this part of his property. And of course, because housing prices are terrific, I'm sure, that was sort of the ultimate motivation. So, and the chairman, Josh Knox of the ZBA, very thoughtful, and of course wanted to hear everything that the homeowner's attorney had to say, and gave it very serious consideration. But then ultimately, it wasn't convincing about, there was no solid reason for why there should be these, the minimum areas be overridden. So ultimately it was denied.
That gives me new faith in the zoning board of appeals. But only because I'm sure it had something to do with frontage and, if for each lot, X amount of frontage before you can build, which is important. Especially, I don't know what neighborhood it was or what, single family, two family, whatever neighborhood it was. It just, I could see it unless there was a lot of land causing problems. But thank you for your interest and thank you for coming down.
Absolutely. And if I may, for the record, the spelling of my first name is very unusual, and that's where it's Morriss. I know it. Most people, the ordinary spelling is to have one S, but I just wanted to.
Oh, so you have two S's?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's, I got
Two
one.
R's and two S's.
Okay, appreciate that. I really appreciate you coming forward and staying with this position here. And as you said, it doesn't meet often, but it is an important role that you play in the city for variances and different things that come up, with the planning board. Now, do you just they call meetings as needed? Is that how that works? So you don't have a set meeting time or a set meeting night?
Exactly.
Then they just give you a notice ahead of time, a couple of days or whatever to meet.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, it's usually the standard sort of 2-week notice that there is an issue coming up, and Sharon coordinates. Okay, when are you available? I think Thursday nights is the default night for us. But yeah, if there's nothing before the board, I don't need to meet.
No, that's good. And like I said, it may not meet often, but when you have something to come up with the city, it's an important role that you play for the city of Holyoke. So I really appreciate you stepping up and volunteering your time to serve the city. Any other questions? Any members? I just want to state that Jose Maldonado Velez, City Councilor at Large, has also joined us on Zoom. So we have a few councilors also here.
I'll make a motion to recommend the candidate to the city council.
Okay, so move. Second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank you, Morris.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Morris.
it.
Thank you very much.
I'll make
Thank
a
you.
motion, well, we're going to leave 3 on the table for the chairman. I'll make a motion, let's see, we've got,
We got two other, is anybody here from the,
do you want me to take 4 and 5 as a package, Pete, or want me to take them individually?
yeah, I think individually, but I don't know if they're here or not.
Well,
We have two of them, right?
let's yeah, I'll make a motion to take number 4 off the table.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This is from Maribel Ortiz. It's a cover letter and resume for interest in the Community Preservation Committee. I do have I think we both have, all have the resume here in front of us. I'm not sure if she is here yet. Maribel Ortiz, no?
She online? No?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, she is online. Yes, here. There she is. Okay. Good evening, Maribel. We have your resume here and your letter as an interest in the Community Preservation Committee, and we're just going to have you introduce yourself, tell a little bit about yourself, and why you want to be a member of this committee.
Yes, hi.
Good evening.
Good evening. I've been living here in Holyoke for the last 25 years. I've been working for the community. I run a breast grant like a couple years ago for the Holyoke Medical Center, and also I'm working for the Holyoke Health Center for a residency program. It's from NYU. Some dentists that they are doing their specialty in pediatrics. And also I've been doing a lot of outreach, and I like to be involved in community stuff. Like I've been doing voluntary cleaning and looking where stuff that they need to be done, especially here in downtown. I'm sorry, I don't know. It's my first time trying to
It's
talk
okay.
about myself.
Take your time. Just want to get to know you a little bit, and why you want to be on this committee. And we might
I
have
also raised my kids over here, here in Holyoke. I have my oldest daughter. She went to Holyoke High and graduated from Eton College. And I also have my little one that now is a senior. She's going to graduate this year. That's it. I've been, I like a lot. I would like to help a lot the downtown that need a lot of improvement, a lot of stuff that a lot of people that have been talking about, stuff that need to be done, and I would like to be part of the change here in Holyoke.
Sounds good. Any questions from anybody on the committee for Maribel?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Council Puello?
Hey, Maribel, thanks for stepping up. Just quick question, same question I've been asking. Could you talk a little bit about the last thing that the committee talked about? Thank you.
Not sure if she.
I believe she's a new member.
Yeah, I don't think she was on the committee, was she?
Yeah, I mean, does she still?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question again?
Could you talk a little bit about the last thing that the Community Preservation Committee talked about? I know you're a new member, but.
They talk about, I think that they put a plate or something on the, some park here in the flat. I think that they mentioned something about that, and they also talk about the statue that they have here in the Veterans Park, here in, across from the Holyoke Health Center. That's what I remember that they talk about.
Okay. At the last meeting, thanks a lot.
Pete?
Thank you. Yeah, Councilor Bartley.
Yes, Mrs. Ortiz, I'm Councilor Bartley from Ward 3. How are you?
Fine, and you?
Fine. Okay, so Ms. Ortiz, the government of Holyoke cannot possibly run without volunteers such as you. Cannot run. You just heard 2 volunteers come before you. So, and since you're a new person wanting to get involved, I want to speak very frankly with you. So the Community Preservation Act is a board that works hand in hand with the City Council. These are taxpayer dollars of which you're going to take votes on, yes or no, on 3 separate areas: historic preservation, open space, and affordable housing. It is imperative that you educate yourself on what exactly the CPA does and what it doesn't do. Because you're going to get recommendations that may or may not fit with the CPA. You're the one taking the vote. You're the one that's going to come back to the City Council with a yes or a no. So you've got to have the backbone to take the hard votes. But before you do that, you've got to understand exactly what's going on with this. So I applaud you for being willing to step up. But when I was on this committee 8 years ago, I said almost the exact same speech to other new candidates. You've got to educate yourself. Now, along these lines, you live in downtown, your commitment's to downtown. But let me just advise you on one other small piece. There are certain funds, community development block grant funds. The city receives somewhere around $1 million a year. That's very, very loose, but I'm not off by much. Those funds can only be used in essentially wards 1, wards 2, part of ward 4, part of ward 3. So basically downtown. Whereas CPA funds, I just want you to make sure you know this, CPA funds can be used across the entire city. For example, in West Holyoke, where you don't live and I don't live, there's sometimes a need for CPA funds out there. So I would encourage you strongly to keep an open mind when you take a vote. That you know it's not for downtown, but it's for the city, and this makes sense within the ambit of the law. So you're also going to take votes. You do have a staff person. So you're going to be working with that staff person, and when you have a question, she better be available to answer the questions. She's getting paid. So let us not forget that. You are not getting paid. You're a volunteer. She is getting a check. So when you ask a question, within reason, she ought to be giving you an answer, preferably in writing. But the hope is that you'll stay on point. I guess my final thing is on this, as many people in your world that we can get to come into city government, to volunteer in city government. I mean, you have a whole world of people that I don't know, but you can be their example, I hope, to want to get involved. Because once you get into this, there are certain committees in the city, I don't have a great interest, but that one that you're gonna go on, that one's got a tremendous amount of authority because you're dealing with hundreds of thousands of dollars, taxpayer dollars, to be treated like a little dove in your hand, preciously and carefully. So I ask you just to consider those thoughts as we move this along, okay? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Thank you. We have Israel Rivera, Counselor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank Maribel for volunteering for CPA. I'm now going to be on the CPA as a city councilor, but before for 2 years I served on the CPA for as the Parks and Recs representative. And I kind of wanted to echo some of what Mr. Bartley said a little bit with regards to the spending of the money with CDBG and CPA. The concept that we kind of have, or some of the approach we have taken in the past. For example, the remodeling of the park at Mayor Field was an approach through CPA dollars for Parks and Recs because that Mayor Field doesn't fall in CDBG and catchment zone. So we can improve those parks like Mayor Field, Glow Tech, or Jones Point without CPA dollars. So the idea with that, at least from the parks perspective, is to try to spread the wealth across the whole community overall. But I would also like to just say thank you for volunteering, because this is actually it's a very, very, it's a long process. It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort. I was there for countless hours, and I welcome anyone that's willing to come and volunteer for this. Thank you guys again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Anybody else? I want to thank you, Maribel, for stepping up and looking at your resume and seeing the involvement you have had with the city. And as Counselor Bartley said, for more community people getting involved in city government, I think it's important. You play a crucial role in taking care of, these are, as Counselor Bartley stated, taxpayer dollars. I mean, this is money that everybody pays on top of their real estate tax that goes to different programs and different buildings and parks. I know you mentioned something about Veterans Park, and I know there was some money going towards that for one of the statues. And myself being a veteran, is very important to see that money utilized that way to really make that park a much better park with the monuments in there. So I want to thank you for stepping up, and look forward to you to have one of our reps on the CPA committee. Any other comments?
I'll make a motion that we recommend adoption, City Council.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
I'd just like to thank you again, Maribel, for your time.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to...
Can we go back to number 3, because we're going to have to, I want to table that item. Bring that up.
Well, Well, if just for clarification.
Okay, we'll go.
Because you're going to leave it on the table, Pete. So
Okay, that's what we're going to do. We
you
table.
don't have to take it off. If you
Okay.
want, but it's up to you. If you want, do you want me to make a motion so you just can say what it is?
Yeah, I want to, yeah.
Okay, I'll make a motion to remove number 3 from the table.
Okay, this is from Josh Garcia, just to have on the record, a letter appointing Miss Jennifer Keitt, 63 Arthur Street, to serve as a member of the Holyoke Redevelopment Authority. Miss Keitt will replace Miss Gladys Lebron-Martinez and will serve remainder term. Said term will expire on November 2nd. Take a motion to table that item.
Well, did you want to say anything in the discussion why we're not taking this?
Yeah, the discussion, Miss Keitt has applied for a job with OPED, so right now we're going to hold off on this appointment and till the future.
Okay, motion to table.
Okay,
Yep, second.
all in favor? Aye. Okay.
Motion to take number 5 off the table.
Motion to take item number 5 off the table is from Francesca Nunez, cover letter and resume for interest in the Community Preservation Committee. And Ms. Nunez is here on Zoom. Welcome, Francesca.
Hi.
As we said earlier, if you want to give us a brief discussion about yourself and why you want to serve on this committee, it'd be appreciative. Then we'll have a few
Well,
questions for you.
Okay, hi, my name is Francesca Nunez. I was born in Springfield, raised in Holyoke. I had my kids here. I've been volunteering with the community for quite a long time, since I was a teenager. What made me want to do this more was when the current mayor now was running for mayor. I saw him in actually my neighborhood where I live in the Flats area. And I spoke to him about some concerns I had and everything I wanted to see and change, and he actually recommended me to do this. I did attend after seeing him, I did attend more than 5 CPA meetings, and I've been seeing what's going on, like what it's really about. And I was really interested in it. So to me, it's like anything that helps make a change in my city, all up for it, so.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Any questions for Francesca? Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, Ms. Nunez, I'm Councilor Bartley. I represent Ward 3. Ms. Nunez, where do you reside? What street?
West Street.
Okay, cool. And I don't want to repeat what I just said, but did you hear what I just said to the prior applicant?
Yep, I know all about it. Like I said, I've been attending the meetings. I've been educating myself about it. I've been asking Megan, which she's the one that actually I very first spoke to about it. I know about the project of the Lady Liberty, which is on Veterans Park. I know about a affordable housing project also that's going on Jackson Street. Yeah, so I know it's quite a lot, but I'm up for it.
Okay, and yeah, there's no quiz later on, so that's the good news.
Yeah.
But I'm hopeful that even though you're confident in what you've heard, that you'll take my humble advice, or consider it anyhow, and at least try to read the statute, try to understand what it is you can do, what it is you cannot do. Realize that there are community development block grant funds that can only reach into the lower wards of the city, cannot go to the outer wards. But CPA funds can go across the entire city regardless. So there are no census-related restrictions on that. So, and I'm glad you know that. We are very excited about Lady Liberty. That is wonderful. I know Mike Falsetti, who is a member. He's one of the appointees, ad hoc appointees from the Housing Authority. He did that. You're going to be an at-large appointee. You're going to be a city council appointee. So when I have a question, Francesca, about this, I'm going to email you directly. So I'm going to want to know. I do it. Don't think for a second I won't. So I'm going to email. So and on top of that, guess what I do? I also read your meeting minutes. So when I read the meeting minutes, when I look at them very closely. So I'm hopeful that I'm going to see Ms. Nunez. Ms. Nunez asked this question, and Ms. Nunez raised this issue, because Ms. Nunez, when she was in her in her hearing, she says, "Oh, I got this. I know what's going on. So the proof's gonna be in the minutes. So it's gonna be all there in black and white, which I personally read. And on top of that, they're posted online, so the whole world can read them. But we'll see. And as I said earlier, it is my hope that not only will somebody like you step up to this, but perhaps, just perhaps, if you do a good job, just perhaps you might influence somebody else to follow in your footsteps that might do this, that might run for office, that might do other things. So that's the other part of this thing that nobody wants to talk about, but I talk about it. Well, there you go. You know, mean old Councilor Bartley. Even though mean Councilor Bartley, I talk about that stuff too. You know, but believe it or not. So, and I've been talking about it for now my 11th year on the board. So this is not my first time saying these things. So, I wish you luck and thank you for your time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just thanks a lot for being here, Francesca. Really appreciate it. It's a little not fair because you would have got my question, but Maribel got it first. But you seem like you're pretty knowledgeable. You both are. So just thank you for stepping up, and I'm looking forward to talking more about you on this.
We have a hand up, Councilor Izzy Rivera. There you go.
I just want to say thank you to Francesca as well, and welcome. I mean, not welcome, but welcome to applying. And I'm happy to see more people from the Flats actually stepping up. I grew up in the Flats. I actually remember Francesca from the Boys and Girls Club back in the days. So it's like, it's cool to actually see more people getting involved. And it's I don't know, I just want to say thank you for stepping up and trying to get involved. And if you have any questions that you feel like Mr. Bartley asked you that you need help with answering, feel free to reach out, because I'll be on the council as well, and I can help answer the questions. I'm actually also on the steering committee too for the state, for CPA. So there's a lot of different questions I can actually answer.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Rivera, and also Francesca. I want to welcome you. Very important to get involved in government and city work, and to see more people involved. That's and to see that you already put the time in to be on this committee, the months and the knowledge that you already have. I think it'd be a great asset to that committee, and it is important. The meetings are important. How the fundings are spent. And it affects every neighborhood in the city. And I know that you'll take this role and work with it and do well with it. So thanks a lot for volunteering your time and bringing your attitude and your enthusiasm as well as Maribel to this position.
You're welcome.
I'll make a motion that we recommend Ms. Nunez to the full board.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you both for your time tonight. And good luck.
Will, you want to make the last motion? Because I've been doing all the work here.
Oh, yeah. I'll make a motion to take item 6 off the table.
Second.
Okay. Item number 6, from Mayor Joshua Garcia, letter of appointment for new personnel director Kelly Curran. Kelly, come on in. Any seat, we can sit right here and make sure the green light is on there. Welcome. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and I'm sure we'll have some questions for you for this very important role in city government.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Kelly Curran. I'm a Holyoke resident, born and raised. I worked the past 26 years for the Holyoke School Department. The last almost 7 were in the capacity of human resource as a manager of recruitment, and then I got promoted to human resource manager. And prior to that, I was an executive assistant to the assistant superintendent for some years.
Okay. Anything, I mean, okay, you're born and raised in Holyoke, with school, your education. I mean, we do have your resume here, but just a little bit about your schooling. And
so I went to Dean Technical High School. That's where I got the job at the school department through a co-op. It was a great experience. After that, I attended Holyoke Community College, and then Bay Path College, and then Westfield University, where I majored in business at first, and then public management after.
Okay. Okay. And I know you've seen this position has been open, and it's been a position that's sort of been a revolving door. And I'm just wondering what brought you to the decision to do this position, apply for this position in the city at this time, if you're in a position for so many years?
Yeah, so I just felt like I was ready to go to the next level, and from working with City Hall, I realized that there's a lot of inefficiencies and processes that needed to be upgraded, and I like challenges, so it was intriguing.
Okay.
I wanted to help the city at a larger level.
Okay, I appreciate that. Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, hi, Kelly. Welcome. You said the magic word among many magic words, but I'm not gonna mention that magic word until 1 second. When you were at the at HPS, just tell me, tell me a little bit about the number of employees you're managing. Why don't you give us I don't know. Why don't you give us give us your high point and maybe a point that wasn't so great when you were there.
Sure. So I'm sure you're familiar. The Holyoke Public Schools have about 1,200 employees, but I only supervised 3, payroll and benefits, and unofficially the HR generalist, I would say. A high point for me was when I started, we only had 11% teachers of color. And through my efforts of diversifying the workforce, when I left, we had 28% teachers of color. So that was a high point. A low point would probably be when I accepted the role of taking over payroll, and I didn't know much about payroll, but I can say now it's in a way better place than it was. So it was a low point, and it ended as a high point.
Now, you said the word inefficiencies. So what's been your observation? As you heard the chairman say, and it's something I've said multiple times, and I'm sick of throwing the guy under the bus, so I'm not going to even bother mentioning it anymore, but it started at a certain point with many city departments on the city side of the government as opposed to the public school side of the department, which a lot of voters really, many have just no conception. They see one big Holyoke government, but there's really there's almost like an invisible wall between HPS and the city side of the government. So, but there are things that you've observed, and there are inefficiencies, as you said, that are out here, and so I want you to address some of those that if you can,
Yeah.
that you see, and you don't have to go through a whole list, but 1 or 2 or 3, that'd be great.
Yeah, so one of the biggest and probably not something everyone thinks about is that we're still using paper applications. And so it takes like the candidate or the new hire to write a whole bunch of information on paper. And then we have to, as personnel, have to input it into a system. And then, so there's multiple points of data entry or information being exchanged when it could be imported from like a system. And at the time of COVID right now, where people are not comfortable coming in person and handing paper or, being so close to people, it would be more convenient and efficient to submit things electronically. That's one of them. The other thing is timekeeping. Right now, time is being kept also on paper, so there's no record of people's time. And so if I were to call out sick, maybe my department head would track it, maybe they wouldn't. There's no great system for that. You said 3 inefficiencies?
No, I said 1 or 2 or 3, whatever you feel comfortable with.
I think that's enough for now.
Well, but there are numerous others, and so it's one of the things that you're going to have to. Let me rephrase that. One of the things that I consider to be important is working very closely with what I believe is we now have a full-time mayor who shows up to work every day. And know you, and of course I know your ma, and so we know that you're going to show up to work every day and be available to all the department heads and all the rest of that. What we have had here in my time on this board, in this building, from what I can discern, is basically I'm going to keep my own records and I'm going to do what I want when I want. So we have department heads going on, at one point a department head went on a 6-week vacation, having started the job within a year. Had another department head went on a 5-week vacation, having started the job within a year. Just did it. Can you imagine? I bet you can. Right. Nobody can imagine that. But these things happen, and they happened. We have department heads arbitrarily taking Fridays off from the office. Arbitrarily. So it's not the HPS, strike that, it's not the HR director's job. You're not, mother hen dealing with it. But you've got to be the party who's, and it's what you sound like, is organizing all this stuff, administering it, making sure that payroll records are current, make sure they're accurate, make sure they can be audited, and that ultimately your job is not, I know you report directly to the mayor, but you don't report to us, and ever so rarely do we have the HR director here, ever so rarely. In my career, it's probably under 5 times when they're in the job. Other than maybe going for a financial transfer or but what we want to hear, what I would love to hear, is from an HR director who's a full-time employee who shows up all the time. Hey, this is a communication we can send to the mayor and to the city council that these are some of the goals that we have, and these are some of the milestones that we've hit. And this is my purview, that all these department heads, no longer it's going to be a Wild West where they're going to just do their own thing when they want, when they feel like it. Because your ultimate judge, and the ultimate judge is a taxpayer, of which you're obviously one. So I just ask you to consider some of those thoughts as you move into this new position. As Pete said, as I said, it's been just a turnstile in that office. Despite our efforts, it just for whatever reason just hasn't worked out. I don't know why. Because
I'm pretty stable and committed, so I'll probably be around for a little while.
Well, it sounds like you've been in one job for a bit on that side, and so the way I look at city council in this particular role, we're not the U.S. Senate. We don't get to. I don't think that we really have an up or down vote on this, so I can't imagine it being down. But even if it were, I mean, I think basically, you would be appointed. But the real hope and expectation on my end is that you'll modernize the office. I saw in your thing that you keep things confidential. There's you don't hear crazy. At least I don't hear crazy stuff about HPS records, and so I would take it a reflection on your professional capability. I can assure you, you're going to have very animated department heads coming in and think that they're entitled. Just like I told the prior people that, you've got to have a backbone. You've got to stand up to, we're appointing them, just like the mayor's appointing you. You've got to stand up to people, and you can't cave. Because if you know what's right and wrong. Now, if you make a mistake, fine, you'll own up to it. We all make mistakes, but you can't be bullied by department heads, because that's going to end. The nonsense of the last period of time I think is drawing to a close, thank heavens, and that now we can maybe consider being hardworking, conscientious Holyokers who want to work for the taxpayers' benefit, and I fully expect that you'll do that.
Absolutely. We had a great meeting with the department heads today, and the majority of them were there, and they all seem very hardworking and ready to roll up their sleeves
I'm
and,
glad you had a majority there. I take it you didn't have all of them, but, at some point you'll get a chance to meet all of them. But a majority is a start.
Yeah. Counselor McGibbon.
Thank you, Councilor Tallman, and Kelly, thank you, and welcome. I just have a couple of questions, but I just want to make a comment about your resume. Often we look at resumes, whether it's a mayoral appointment as this is, or even when we're looking for our own appointees, and you have to read and look into them and ask questions. Your resume says a lot. You started, I won't say young age, because we don't do that when we're interviewing, but you started, upon graduating from Dean Volk, and you hopped on the rung of a ladder with an employer, and you climbed up that ladder. Mm-hmm. And to me, that says a lot for any individual. You climbed into a position that you're comfortable with and is giving you an experience to apply for this position. And I see that as an accomplishment. I also see the application as a lateral move from the public schools into this part of the city. We're all the City of Holyoke, mm-hmm. and often people forget that. One of the areas I'm interested in, and you may or may not have experience because you said benefits, is anything you've done with the public schools include health insurance?
yeah.
So can you explain that to us?
Yeah. So when I was asked to take over the payroll department, it included benefits. That was October of 2020, I believe. And it included benefits. So I started participating in the Chapter 19 meetings. And from then, I worked with Beth, who's the Chief Human Resource Officer, and Pat Merchta, who's our benefits specialist, in regards to benefits. I never made any decisions about benefits, but I did oversee Pat Merchta, who's the benefits specialist, so I learned a lot through her.
Yeah. It's just, the reason I ask is health insurance is always more complex, but more complicated than it should be, and it's so important to our employees, on all levels that we do it right. And I know your office, this particular office, will get involved as the year goes on.
We had a meeting today about it.
All right.
Yeah.
Kelly, you mentioned in your resume experience with Munis.
Mm-hmm.
We don't see that often. And I think that's fantastic because there's only a few people on this side of the public schools that even understand Munis exist. And one of the important things, and I'm sure Mayor Garcia will be pushing it, is we need all of our department heads to become more in line with Munis, whether it's payroll, whether it's timekeeping. There's so many opportunities to use Munis that I think for years we have missed out in the City of Holyoke. And can you just elaborate on some of your Munis experience and maybe how you could apply it?
Absolutely. When I first got the job, I was more on the purchasing side. So I learned all of those requisitions and purchase orders. And then when I transitioned to HR, I learned about the personnel side, the payroll side. And this year, the school department, we realized that we weren't using Munis to the full capacity, which the city really isn't using it to the full capacity. So the superintendent agreed to have Munis evaluate our processes and see what we were doing and what we weren't doing with the system and make recommendations and then provide training. So we implemented that this year, and we've been using new modules to create more efficiencies and doing more imports so that we're not triple data entering into different systems because we have several. So I think that's going to be a huge help here because, like you said, payroll and timekeeping, Munis does have that capability, and we should be using it because it has a lot of modules that I'm sure we pay for that we're not using.
I think if we get some of our department heads to start using it, it'll answer some of Councilor Bartley's questions in terms of keeping track of what's going on. And I think it's very important. I think it's important for the employee, to have that at their fingertips.
Yeah, and us. I mean, we need historical data, right? When someone retires or they pass, or just we need all that data in one place instead of digging through paper files to find it. Yeah. And Munis can hold that data, so we should be using it.
I appreciate that. And I appreciate you, coming forward and seeking out this position. I think Mayor Garcia has done a wonderful job putting it in front of us, and you'll certainly have my support, but thank you again.
Thank you.
Councilor Puello?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, you have an impressive resume, and I'm looking forward to working with you. That's it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody online, on Zoom? No? No questions? Kelly, thanks for coming. Oh, wait a second. Okay, go ahead, Councilor Rivera.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I would just like to say the same. Thank you for coming over and joining the Holyoke, the city. As a former colleague of mine at the Holyoke Public Schools, it's awesome to have you be my colleague now here in the city, within the realm of the city here. So yeah,
Thank you, Izzy.
Thank you. Kelly, I just had a couple of questions. I was looking through your resume, and I'm just I'm trying to understand, maybe I should know, but what is the MOCA model, MOCHA model? What is that?
MOCA, yeah, so it's part of a work plan. So the M is for manager, O is for owner, C is for consultant, H is for helper, and A is for approver. So basically, say we have a big project, let's say going out to bid for insurances, right? So we put the first step in there. So who's the manager of this first step, which is contacting all the insurance companies. So the manager would probably be, let's say the manager's John, right? But ultimately, I'm the owner because it falls under my realm of responsibilities. The consultant could be a broker. The helper could be my assistant, and the approver would be the mayor or the city council. So then under that model, there would be several different steps to basically reach our benchmark.
Okay.
I hope I explained that right.
It's interesting to see that. I just didn't know what it meant.
I can share it with you in electronic form, and you could see.
It's very interesting to see that, and I'm sure it could be helpful to the city. And there was something else that I've been involved with in my career with the Postal Service is the EAP program. Mm-hmm. Could you enlighten us about that? Because I know that's one thing I've been pushing about that in our city, because a healthy employee is a better employee showing up for work, is enjoying his work, and if employee has a problem, we want to make sure that they get it taken care of, whether it's personal or family family member sick or whatever. Yeah. So can you expand on that and what you would do with that in our city?
Yeah. So a couple years ago, when I became manager of recruitment, I was asked about getting more people involved in taking advantage of the EAP. And at the time, the EAP was at Holyoke Hospital. I believe it still is for the city. And we asked people about it, like, why don't you use it? Or, different questions to see. So some people said they don't use it because it's not confidential, because it's here in Holyoke. So if I see Mr. Bartley going to the 5th floor, I know he's going to the EAP because, he has to have a counselor or something like that. So I started looking for other opportunities. So we found one, and it was less money. We did reach out to the city and to HG&E, but they weren't interested in leaving the EAP concern. But we did move away from it, and we went with expire. And so expire not only is for like grief or losses or just stress, it's also like they have like a concierge service. Like, do you need a recipe? They send out monthly newsletters. You can call them if, say there was a death and everyone was upset. You can call them and they'll send someone here to talk to the group, and then would talk to people separately. So they have a whole bunch of different kind of services, and we do have a higher usage than we did when we had concern.
Okay, I appreciate that. And as far as I noticed you talked about organization, and I think that's one of the key jobs in this position. Is organizing the office, organizing people's files, You stated a little bit earlier about paper trail and papers and putting things in.
Yeah.
Do you see down the road trying to get more involved in everything electronically?
1,000%, yeah. I was looking up, grants, and so I saw a municipal efficiency grant, and I'm going to try to go for that so that we can get some funds to do electronic files, load the paper ones we have now into a personnel file, and then moving forward, just start everything electronic.
Yeah, 'cause I think that's important. And my concern also, like Councilor McGivern, is the health insurance. And I know a lot of employees have discussed in that Section 19 committee that sometimes they're talking about trying to get in the state plan, but it's difficult because the majority of the teachers, when they retire, they're under the state plan. So it's hard to get that involved. But anyway, you can look at trying to make some savings for the employees in their health benefits, because I know that's a very, costly
Yeah.
thing out of their paychecks, especially for individuals that are single, and they're almost paying the same as somebody with a family on their plan or close to it. So that's another thing I think that is important in your position. So, but thanks for stepping up in the resume. Anybody else have any other questions? Any comments?
Yeah, just
Councilor
one
Bartley?
quick one. We have personal policies here in the city of Holyoke, do we not?
We don't. We're gonna. They've been drafted, but we're gonna work on them. That's one of Mayor Garcia's priorities.
Now, isn't it amazing? Isn't it amazing? Now, we have veteran counselors here. I think even a couple of them raise their eyebrows. Two incredible veterans, but I know I'm a veteran. This is my 6th term, so I'm not going to pretend. We don't have personnel policies. Can you imagine? Now, you should have seen the mean. That's why I say I call myself Mean Counselor Bartley, because once in a while, I had to speak up about prior executives in this, and also prior chairs of certain committees in this body, where if I had to hear one more time, we have to adjust the salary schedule to attract and retain talent. I was ready to jump off the Muller Bridge. I mean, so let's get together with our newest full-time mayor. We had a full-time mayor the last 8 months. Thank heavens for Councilor Murphy. With our newest full-time mayor, let's get together with him to get personal policies that everybody's on board with, and that all these department heads, when I worked for a big employer years ago, I had to sign it. I had to sign my name. And so, did you read them, Bartley? Did you understand? Well, I signed my name to them. So there's that. It's unbelievable. Just a second small point. Isn't it amazing? Isn't the city government great? The other part, Kelly, Miss Curran, but I know I can call you Kelly. One thing that I'd want us to consider. You're coming into city government. I hope, not you, just general. I hope that new people coming to city government don't feel like they've got the golden ticket and they're going to start making tremendous sums of money. I don't think that any of us that are in government, I'm in government as an elected official, and I've never voted once, not even one time, to raise our salary here. And it's been before us twice, and I voted no. Not that I'm opposed to it, but at the times they weren't properly. It wasn't the proper time as far as I was concerned. But when we come into government, I don't think most of us are expecting to have a. On the other side of the coin, of course, we want to be fairly compensated, and we don't want to have, as what we had for years, favorites. So when you look at our budget books, and I hope you'll have a chance to do that over the last period of time, you'll see certain department heads receive very handsome, regular, consistent pay raises. Then you'll see other department heads that receive 0. We had an administrative assistant here for 6 years. Walked in and walked out with the exact same salary because the executive wouldn't raise it. I had a former elected official right here wanted to cut his salary. In 2017, she went back in the budget book after we went through it and voted and made a motion to cut his salary. to the credit of every council member here, it wasn't seconded, but those words were said. Can you imagine? Playing favorites, political favorites. But that shouldn't happen. At the same time, and there's a lot of balls in the air here, I realize, if somebody's doing a great job, you have to work within the confines of the budget. So it's my hope, and I'll end this way, Mr. Chairman, it's my hope that at some point, you and the mayor, of course, the council president, and of course, I think the finance chair and others should be involved with regular discussions. Where are we with the salary schedule? Where are we with, helping out our public works employees, our first line employees, that sort of thing. It's critical.
Yeah, I think we should have an evaluation system that's across the board so the increases are equitable.
Or at least the potential for it. I mean, they're all subject to budget constraints, as we know. I mean, we're not, we do our best. Because of ARPA, we have now, I think, just somewhere south of it, $800,000, or somewhere around the $800,000 budget surplus. So, and so we are going to have free cash. We had a former ordinance chair that said free cash shows a sign, I'm paraphrasing, of poor budgeting. In other words, it was better to not have free cash. This is the attitude we had in this body. We can't survive with that kind of attitude, and with people in positions of authority with that attitude. That's why we're going to rely heavily upon you. So you're going to have a lot of things coming at you. Clearly, we wish you all the best, and we hope you'll stay in the job for a period of time, and we hope you have great success. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
I'll make a motion to
confirm the appointment?
to recommend
Recommend the
the confirmation.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye. And I'll make,
Opposed? No.
I think we've come to the end, Mr. Chair.
That's the end.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned? Second. All in favor?
Aye, thank you.
This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks.